extender, Scott Foster, he got it done. Game 4 goes to Minnesota, and they are still alive. Game 5 will take place Thursday night, 8:30 Eastern on TNT. I'm going to break down the side, the total, player props, let you know how to make some money in Game 5 of the Western Conference Finals this Thursday night. Free for you in this video in just a moment. Hi, this is Steve Merril, WagerTalk.com, right back here on WagerTalk TV. And look, no jokes aside, when I saw Scott Foster reffing Game 4 Tuesday night, I didn't like the Mavericks as much anymore, and Minnesota pulled the outright upset as a 2-point dog. Minnesota did have a 25-21 free throw edge in the game, but they only hit 64%. Dallas, the weaker shooting team from the free throw line this season, was 86%, 18 for 21, and that includes a key miss by Luka with only seconds remaining. Otherwise, they would have been 19 for 21. With that said, though, I don't think Foster was a factor. I say it a little bit tongue-in-cheek. It's fun to have a good conspiracy theory, and yes, on the surface, it was hard to imagine that the NBA would allow both Eastern and Western Conference Finals to end in 4-0 sweeps, especially after Boston pulled it off against Indiana. But if you dig deeper into the box score, Minnesota didn't exactly get favorable calls. Even though they had the 25-21 free throw advantage, all three of their key players almost fouled out. Anthony Towns had 6. He did foul out. Gobert and Edwards had 5 each. So all three of them almost fouled out. So I don't think anything was going on that was anything out of the ordinary. What I do think played a key factor, though, in game number 4, and it's going to be a factor once again in game number 5, is the status of Lively II. He did not play. Talked about it here in the video, but the more you dig into it, it was a key loss because he's their big man down low. And without him, they were definitely weaker defensively. P.J. Washington played over 40 minutes, as we thought he would as a power forward. Gafford also played extended minutes more than he normally plays into the 30-minute mark. Gafford was 6 for 6 shooting, and he still only got to 12 points. He's somebody we might look to regress. You know, I talked about him in the Game 5 video. I said that Washington and Gafford would get more shot attempts, more minutes with Lively out. But I was concerned that Gafford did not take many shot attempts the previous game despite playing his most minutes so far in the NBA postseason. He topped that with even more here in Game 4. So I'd be careful with the Gafford props. He's going to be more the defensive guy. I think P.J. Washington's overprop could be worth a look, especially with Derek Lively II out. As I do this video on Wednesday afternoon, getting up nice and early for you into Thursday, the official injury report is not out, but I do not expect Lively to be in the lineup from everything I've seen and heard over the past day or so. But once again, we'll keep an eye on that. He's listed as probable, actually, when I last saw. So we'll see if he plays or not, but I'm not sure he's fully healthy, and whether he comes back or not, we shall see. As far as other key injuries in this series, Conley currently not on the injury report for Minnesota. He, of course, was on and off the last few games, and he did miss a couple in the previous series. In Game 4 the other night, Conley for Minnesota played 34 minutes, was just 5 for 9 shooting. That's because the heavy lifting was done by Anthony Edwards, of course, and Anthony Towns, who took 38 of the shot attempts. And Anthony Towns finally had a breakout game with 25 points, despite fouling out with the 6 fouls, and also Edwards 29 points. Anthony Towns finally making some threes, 4 for 5. So I like Karl Anthony Towns props over again, and it would be over a pass for Edwards. And I do think Minnesota can get this game and force a Game 6 back in Dallas on Saturday night. In fact, I had my colleague Ralph Michaels at WagerTalk.com, the human database stat daddy, the pin, father of Jeff. Ralph pulled up some Game 5 info for me, and I asked Ralph specifically to ask the database, what about these teams that are down 1-3 but won Game 4, right? That means they were 0-3. We all know that no team has ever overcome an 0-3 deficit. Most of those teams get swept in Game number 4, but some teams do win Game number 4, and I was wondering, what kind of momentum does that give them? Does it give them a renewed life, especially back at home? Well, digging into the data from Ralph Michaels at WagerTalk.com, you'll see it doesn't happen too often. In fact, going back to 2003, the last 21 years, we've only had 4 home games. We've only had 4 road teams win Game 4 when down 0-3 and force a Game 5 back at home. And one of them was in the 2020 bubble season, September 8th. That playoffs between the Bucks and the Heat. So I'm going to disregard that one because there was no home crowd edge. And I think that's something you got to do when back testing. The other one came back way back in the 2004 season. The Suns lost at home as a 2.5-point favorite to the Spurs. But there's been 2 other times. Of course, one of them was last year. We all remember the Celtics. They came closest to ever doing it, down 0-3, but they were a heavy favorite at that series, the Eastern Conference Finals against Miami. They won game 4, of course, on the road, just like Minnesota did on Tuesday night. And the Celtics came back as an 8.5-point favorite last year in game 5. They won by 13. It totaled 110.97. It landed 207 and stayed under the 215 total. The other one that has happened over the past couple decades was way back in 2010, 14 years ago. The Magic were down 0-3 against the Celtics, of all teams. Magic came back to win game 4 on the road. And then at home, they also won again easily by 21, 113.92. They were a 4-point favorite, landed 185, and it landed went over the total. The total was 185. It landed 205 and went over. So we had that one go way over easily. We had the one last year stay under, and then we had that Spurs-Suns one also stay under back in 2004. But what's interesting, the Suns were only a 2.5-point favorite. And that means they probably weren't the better team in that series. Home court's worth about 3 on average, especially back then. In 2010, as I mentioned, the Magic 4-point favorite, meaning they're probably as good, if not slightly better. They won easily by 21. And then, of course, last year, we know the Celtics were considered the better team. 8.5-point favorite. They won by 13. So we've had double-digit wins the last 2 times. We've had these true home game 5s in which the team won game 4 down 0-3. So that does favor Minnesota in this situation. And the current line is 4 up to 4.5. But I've seen some sharp books internationally as of Wednesday afternoon go to -5. So there is some sharp money on Minnesota. And the reason I know that sharp money is because my early public consensus data is showing the public is on Dallas in this game. So I do think we could very well, by tip-off on Thursday night, call this a sharp square divide with a public underdog on Dallas and the sharp money on Minnesota. Once again, we'll keep an eye on Lively. I've seen him listed anywhere from questionable to probable. As of yesterday in game 4, I didn't think he was going to play at all for a couple games in this series. So I'm not sure what to make of that injury. He is a key player. Can always wait to do an in-game bet here, take a look to see how he's looking if he does play. But once again, if Lively is out again, I think that favors Minnesota a little bit more, and that's why they did struggle in Game 4. Dallas, that is, without their best defender down low. Minnesota's able to get to the hoop more, and they definitely did that. Minnesota did not take as many threes as we've seen in past games. In fact, after taking 30, 31, and 49 the 3 previous games, they only took 24, and they did hit 11 of them. Dallas, meanwhile, relied heavily on the 3. They took 40 of them. And keep in mind, Dallas won by 9 in Game 3, despite being plus 15 from 3-point range. They lost by 5, and they were plus 9 in Game 4. In fact, Minnesota's had the biggest lead now in 3 of these 4 games. Dallas has only had the biggest lead once, and that was in Game 3. So this has been a tighter series, and that 3-0 lead would indicate. The odds makers were also saying that Minnesota was not done. Let's compare this to the Indiana series, where they were a big dog without Halliburton. Boston was as high as 1,000 to 1, 1 to 1,000 to win the series when they were up 3-0. Other books had 1 to 300, 1 to 500. It didn't really matter. It was a joke price. Nobody should be playing those type of prices anyway. Dallas was about 1 to 20, 1 to 22 going into Game 4. The Pacers were anywhere from 80 to 1 to 300 to 1. True odds are about 5 or 600 to 1, down 0-3. Minnesota's take back on Dallas minus 2,000, 1 to 20 was plus 900, 9 to 1. So Minnesota down 0-3 was still 9 to 1 going into Game 4, and now the adjusted series price 4 to 1. They still got to win 3 in a row, and the odds makers are saying 4 to 1. Dallas take back minus 550. So the true odds are about 4.5, 5 to 1, about 20% chance. In fact, the true odds going into Game 4 that Minnesota could win the series still was about 6%. And now it's up to about, definitely a higher margin than that. In fact, I'll run the numbers for you right now. I would say the true odds right now are about 18% based on the math. So they've gone from about 6% to 18% just winning Game 4 with 3 more to go. They are still alive, and I think that'll spark them. And back at home with the home crowd will spark them. And that's why I wanted Ralph Michaels to run that database for me, the back testing, because, once again, most teams that have extended it to Game 5 have done it by winning Game 4 at home. Almost all the 0-3 wins are by Game 4 home teams. Then they go to the road Game 5, and they usually lose. We don't see it the other way around too often. I mentioned in my Game 4 video that Dallas fit some good, strong situations. 7-4 straight up, 6-2 the last 8. Home teams up 3-0. Of course, it was 0-2 the last 2 times, including Boston last year in Miami. It's now 0-3, and Boston did win by double digits at home in Game 5. So recent current form also favors Minnesota from recent history, I should say. And I do think they're now alive in this series. And once again, they've had the largest lead in 3 of the 4 games, which means at worst it probably should be 2-2. They could even be up 3-1. They were winnable games. Minnesota's still alive here in Game 5. As far as the total in this one, it's interesting to look at because Game 4 did finally stay under, and we saw that also at the Indiana-Boston game. The first 6 games in both the East and West had gone over. Game 4's both stayed under now. As far as the adjustment from the odds makers, it's still sitting at 209.5. You know, we saw 207s in the first few games. We saw as high as about a 210.5 in Game 4. It stayed under with 205. But now we're seeing it back up to 209.5. Not much of an adjustment. It's still higher than Games 1 and 2. My rescoring model overall has been was favoring the over in the first 2 games around 217. Game 3 was 200. Game 4 about 208.5. So Game 4 was right in line with this one. Now that's based on full season. Dallas has been a better defensive team with Gafford and Washington since February. And modified for playoff track up efficiency, also lower scoring pace, better defense. Playoff adjusted was like 202 in the first couple games, 186, 194 the last couple. So depending on which model you want to rely on, the full season or the more adjusted playoff down model, it would kind of fall right between. So I think the odds makers have set this total where it should be. But once again, if Lively is out, I do like the over in this if Lively is out because he is a key defensive player. All right, let's look at some player props here on the way out. And once again, we got a Game 6. I'll be back with Saturday's video here on the channel, so make sure you click subscribe, you hit the bell for instant alerts so you never miss any of these playoff videos. I've done every game, every day this postseason, and I will continue to do so as long as you're watching. Thumbs up, like, and comment below to keep these videos free and each and every day on this channel plentiful. And if you're not subscribed already, 150,000, set 50,000, it was 53, it's 157,000. Man, that's a tongue twister. Don't know why, but it is. It's a big number. I love numbers. 157,000 subscribers. Can't be wrong. Join the family for free. Click subscribe and hit the bell for instant alerts. Thumbs up, like, and comment below. I do read all the comments, and I reply back. Let me know your thoughts on this Game 5. Is Minnesota alive? Many of you thought they were going to win Game 4. I give you props in the comments when you call it right. I had several of you that said, hey, T-Wolves, Game 4, they're still alive, and you were right. Now, the Lively injury, I do think, have played a part. Max Kleber, by the way, came back. Don't forget, he did not look good, and we'll see how much he plays in Game 5. I think they're trying to work him into the lineup, having next week off to play Boston. But he played 13 minutes, only took 3 shot attempts, and was 0 for 2 from three-point range. So Kleber, once again, not looking too good in his return. We'll see if he gets more minutes. As far as Minnesota's reserves, by the way, talking about player props, Anderson played 25, only took 3 shot attempts. So Naz Reid, a guy we talked about in Game 4, we thought he might play more. He did get 20 minutes, but only in 6 shot attempts, only 6 points though. So I think you got to look at the Minnesota starters. I mentioned it earlier at the top of the video, like Karl Anthony Towns, his player points over. Edwards would be over a pass. I'm not looking to fade a superstar in what I think is a focus spot. But Anthony Towns, I still think, has some upside. This is a guy who had vastly underperformed in the first few games of this series, and it was really because the shooting wasn't there. It's a guy that's won the three-point contest. He can shoot. It was just some random variance, and he put up 25 in Game 4 after having 16 or less the first 3 games. He's still priced around 19.5. I like Karl Anthony Towns over 19.5 total points once again. Gobert, 4 for 5 shooting, 13 points. He can't get much better than that, so I think he could be worth a look to the under, actually. Anthony Towns would be my preferred Timberwolf to the over. Let's dig into the Dallas starters a bit. I mentioned earlier that Gafford was 6 for 6, 12 points, played 31 minutes. I mentioned in the video in Game 4 I thought he'd have more minutes. He got up and over his point total of around 9, but he was 6 for 6. Very fortunate to do it, so I'm kind of neutral now on Gafford. He has had 10 or more in 3 of the 4 games in this series, though. So once again, if Lively plays, it'd be over a pass for Gafford. If Lively doesn't play, if Lively plays, Gafford under could be worth a look. I think his minutes might be a little bit more limited. So if Lively plays, Gafford under 9 points might be worth a look. So keep an eye on that. PJ Washington, he's been big in the playoffs. He only had 10 points. He did not get over his total of around 12 in game number 4, but it was misleading. Washington played, as I mentioned earlier, a lot of minutes, 41.5 minutes, and he was 3 for 13. He took 13 shot attempts. He was only 3 for 13, including 2 for 9 from three-point range. If he hits anywhere near his norm, he will get up and over 12.5. So I'd like PJ Washington to bounce back over 12.5 points. Kyrie Irving, another one of those off games. That's why Dallas lost. He was only 6 for 18 shooting, 1 for 6 from 3. He's coming back down to earth a bit. He's been subprime as far as points scored. I'm not saying he's not playing well because he's really doing a lot of other things helping the team. But Luka was the go-to guy, almost 41 minutes. 21 shot attempts. He got to 28 points, had a triple-double again, and was only 7 for 21 and only 4 for 11 from three-point range. So it's over or pass on Luka props for me. I know they're inflated, they're priced to perfection, but once again, I'm not getting in front of Luka. He's a superstar, and even if he's banged up, he's still getting triple-doubles. So Luka overs or pass. He's just getting so many shot attempts. He took 21 of the 81 shots for Dallas. PJ Washington over points, Karl Anthony Towns over points would be my two top props for each team in Game 5 on Thursday night, 8:30 Eastern on TNT. All right, if Minnesota gets it done, and they likely will as a 4.5 to 5 point favorite, then I will be back Saturday here for Game 6, so make sure you hit subscribe and click the bell as well. Don't forget, thumbs up, like goes a great way to helping out, keeping this content free and plentiful. And also comment below. I read all the comments, and I do reply back. Love the support here. Let's learn and earn and win together. What are your thoughts on Game 5 here Thursday night between the Mavericks and Timberwolves? Does it go 6? Side total, player props, what are you looking at? Comment below. I read all the comments, and I reply back. Hey, if you'd like to get my baseball best bets, I know we're talking NBA, but the NBA is almost done. Handful of games remaining, but baseball is a daily sport, and this is the prime time of year to get it because you can build your bankroll the next couple months before football begins in August and September. Right now, the summer celebration is still available, and if you sign up, you get the rest of May included for free right now. So get these last couple days of May included. It gets you everything for June, July, and August through September 2nd, which is Labor Day, that first football weekend as well. And you get it for less than $6 a day. That works out to about just $2 to $3 a play. I average about 2 to 3 plays a day. So once again, the summer celebration is still available this week. Sign up now, you get the rest of May free. And he works out to less than about $3 a play for the entire summer of baseball, the rest of the NBA playoffs, and football too, because it takes you through Labor Day on September 2nd. Once again, a great way to build your bankroll and get some football when it begins at the end of this summer. Summer celebration, no promo code needed. It's on my page right now. It works out to about $3 a play for the entire summer. All sports, all access. Steve Merril, WagerTalk.com. And while you're there, check out the daily free play. I post a free baseball play every day for you on my page. Steve Merril, WagerTalk.com. Get there quicker with shortcut WT.buzz/SM. You can follow me on X, Twitter, at Steve Merril, 2 R's, 1 L, at Steve Merril on X, Twitter. Also follow me on Instagram along with Wager Talk on IG. And stay tuned here to Wager Talk TV. I'm doing a lot of daily baseball videos as well. Free play videos for baseball each and every day here on the channel. And more content for the NBA playoffs as well. Stay tuned, subscribe, like, thumbs up, and comment below. And best of luck. Enjoy the Game 5. If we have a Game 6, I'll talk to you again on Saturday. If not, I'll talk to you each and every day with some baseball content here on Wager Talk TV.